Sibaleke mphulaphuli sipha ezwini elinamandla izwi eliphilileyo ndishilo ke ndathi sine guest speaker yethu namhlanje esuka eMalawi sizothi ke simphakamise umfundisi wethu so simphakamise umfundisi uWambua from eMalawi isitsho ke i-theme isithi church growth Siyamuphakamisa ke egameni lika Yesu Kristu ngaphandle ke kokuchitha amaxesha. Over to you, my apostle, my pastor, my evangelist, my teacher. Over to you, and we welcome you in Jesus' name. Yes, thank you. Sibaleke mphulaphuli sipha ezwini elinamandla izwi eliphilileyo ndishilo ke ndathi sine-guest speaker yethu namhlanje esuka eMalawi sizothi ke simphakamise umfundisi wethu sothi simphakamise umfundisi uWambua from eMalawi isitsho ke i-theme isithi church growth siyamphakamisake ke egameni likaYesu Kristu ngaphandle ke kokuchitha amaxesha. Over to you, my apostle, my pastor, my evangelist, my teacher. Over to you, and we welcome you in Jesus' name. Yes, thank you.
I want to say I was born in the rural part of Kenya, which is about 200, 300 kilometers out of Nairobi in the eastern part of Kenya. growing up of challenges, growing up in the rural Kenya, and when I talk of rural Kenya, there are no roads, there's no electricity, no power, and that is where I grew up. I'm born in a big family, and we are 16 of us. And so growing up, we had so many challenges. My father never went to school, but he had the opportunity to go to come to Nairobi, where he worked as a cleaner. And I want to say, during my time, my young age, me and my brothers, we lived under the care of our mom. Because our father only came home once in a year during his annual leave. If he was living today, we would call him a non-resident father. And so we only saw him once every year when he came home. Living in the rural with my mom. My mom was not a Christian. My father was born by our grandfather, who was so much involved in witchcraft. And so that is the foundation that was laid for my father. He believed so much in certain powers, in the powers of witchcraft. But our mom, who was not a Christian, she always forced us to go to church. And I remember when we were growing up, if we didn't go to church on Sunday, our mom would not give us food. And so me and my brothers, we had to go to church every Sunday because we needed something to eat. I want to back up a little bit and say there are many days that we went without food. We would go without food for 1, 2, 3 days, and maybe the 4th day we would go to school. So that was my life, and that was our life that we lived with my brothers and my sister. So I want to say for 9 years, I went to church, which was not a Bible-believing church, because I needed something to eat. You can imagine just going to church because you need something to eat. So that is how I did, or how we did. But after finishing part of my education in the rural Kenya, I came to Nairobi. And coming to Nairobi, I found myself living in the slum that you have heard from my story. This is a small area, which is an area of about 3 square miles. It has a population now of anywhere between 350,000 to 750,000 people who live in shacks. And so I started living in the slum with my cousin, and I lived there for about 4 months. And then my uncle, who was a pastor by then, feared for me. And he knew that if I'm going to continue living there, maybe I may get into gangs. and get myself involved in social evil or in some bad things. So him and his wife invited me to stay with him in a different area. And having to stay with an uncle who is a pastor, that meant that I'll be forced again to go to church on Sunday. So I started living with them in November of 1986, and when I came to live with them, I had to go with them to church every Sunday. Again, another challenge to go to church because I didn't like going to church. But I want to say I went to church November of 1986, and in December of 1986, we had a guest speaker. It was a small church. When I talk about church, we were just about 8 to 10 members. That December, we had a guest preacher was a missionary, and he came to this church and he spoke about the rich man and the poor Lazarus. And he said both of them died, but one of them went to hell, the other one went to heaven. And so he posed a question: if you are to die today, where would you go? I didn't, take that seriously, but as I left, I started thinking about my life. And I kept on coming to church December, January, February, and March 17th of 1987. My uncle was preaching, and after preaching, he made an altar call. And after making an altar call, I raised my hand and I went forward and he prayed for me, and that really turned my life around. Immediately after I gave my life in that small church, I felt the Lord was calling me into the ministry. That in that small church, we had about 20 children who came for Sunday school every Sunday morning. And we had volunteer teachers who came from the mission church, the main church of this church. Those teachers always came late. They were supposed to be in Sunday school by 8. They would come at 8:30, 8:45. And so immediately when I gave my life to Christ, I went to my pastor and I said, Pastor, my uncle, I don't have much knowledge on the Bible, but I am willing to help these children. If you can provide for me materials that I can read, I would be more than happy to help teach these children. So my pastor, my uncle, gave me the opportunity, and he said, I want you to start teaching the children. Friends, I started teaching those 20 children, and one of my strategies was to visit them in the slum. And I would say every Sunday morning I would come to church early as 7. Then I would go around the slum, and literally children would be following me. I would do the first trip, I'll do the second trip, I'll do the third trip, the fourth trip, and by the time I'm doing my fifth trip, I would be having between 250 and 300 children. And that is the ministry that I did for 9 years. I was then also able to start a youth ministry in this small church, but the church grew from being small into a bigger church because my pastor, my uncle, gave me so many opportunities. He sent me for trainings in discipleship and evangelism, which were conducted by the Campus Crusade for Christ. And some of you who are aware of Campus Crusade for Christ, you are trained, but you also do the practical work on what you are being trained. And so I was given my area to saturate with the gospel. It is not just sharing, but it is sharing. When people give their lives to Christ, you disciple them, and you teach them how to disciple others, because that was part of the graduation requirement. So by doing so, I was able to help bring so many people to Christ, and the church grew from the 8-10 members to 170 people. And that was, that was just the doing of the Lord. After being in this church and having served faithfully in this church for 9 years, the pastor, my uncle, felt that there was a need for the church to plant a mission church. So this pastor sent me to a new area. This new area, I was able to evangelize for, I would say, for a month. And when I called for people to come so that we can start the first church, which started under tree, I had 19 people come. I was very excited that God had brought those 19 people. The second Sunday, I had 21, and I think the last Sunday I was there, the third one, we had 27. But again, this uncle, my pastor, says, we want to start some other work in another area. So he decided to take me to this area, new area again, and left where I had been for someone else. When I came to this new area, I had only 3 people. And the number did not grow for months. And friends, I became so frustrated. I started blaming God because I felt like God was calling me from familiar to unfamiliar, from popular to unpopular. And so every Sunday I went to that church, new church, in the current church that I am in. I felt like this is not the place that I need to be. I felt always, whenever there, I was in the wrong place. And for 6 months, it was my time to complain, to blame my pastor, to blame God for taking me to this new area. After much complaint, there was no change. Things remained the same. So after 6 months, I decided, and I remember telling God, I have complained enough. I am not going to complain anymore. And I told God, God, if you want me to be here, I want you to prove yourself by bringing me people who can worship me, or worship with me. I had done all that I could do. I had done crusades by myself and a few people that I had. In those days, in the PA system that we have, the sound, the powerful PA system, we would use a radio and a microphone, an FM microphone. That is what we used to do that side. And after I made this request to God, I got a certain inner peace within myself. And immediately, God started bringing in people into the church. I started getting some young people. I started getting some, family members, and they came in the church. And before the end of the year, I had a congregation of between 30 and 40 people. And I saw the faithfulness of the Lord. And this really encouraged me um, to continue serving Him, to continue living for Him. As I was doing all this, I had not gotten married. So later on, I got married to my wife, and now I had more support because my wife would help me in the ministry in doing some of the things instead of me doing everything. So the church started growing and eventually grew. Today, as we speak, our church has probably a member in terms of our membership of about 500 plus people. In 2000, because when I was growing up, I attended a church. This church never believed in salvation, but I did know that